Hi, and welcome to Wow Talk. I'm Donna Cappuccitti, a thriving cancer survivor.
And I'm her naturopathic doctor, Darlene Gustin. We're here to encourage, educate, and empower you on your journey to optimum wellness.
Welcome to Wow Talk. I'm Donna Cappuccitti.
And I'm Dr. Darlene Gustin, naturopath.
And today we are going to talk about perimenopause.
Yes, it sneaks up on you, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? I'm glad those days are over for me, though.
Yeah, but the joke is it also happens to men, but we'll talk about the ladies today.
I think we should talk about both for sure.
Okay, sure.
Let's do both.
Okay.
So, Dr. Gustin, where do we even start? What would you say? Is there a set age that it usually sets in or starts? Or
Well, in Chinese medicine, they kind of say mid-30s, that you pass your prime fertility years, whether you're a male or a female. And I am amazed how many new patients I have who are exactly 38 years old. That's the magic number.
yes, it is. We've mentioned that before. You can check out our other episode, Navigating 38.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of patients joke and they go, "Oh, I turned 40 and everything fell apart," and it's kind of true. And what happens is your reproductive organs are passing their prime, and for females, if they're tested at this time, they're either still showing normal in blood work, or if they go to the more sensitive private labs that test hormones through saliva or urine, they may find that their progesterone is low. So that's the first hormone to drop. And the symptoms that go with that are all over the place. It's very common to have poor sleep. You could have PMS, a shift in how your period is expressing itself. It could be mood. It could be cholesterol. It could be weight. It could be digestive changes. And that's where it begins.
But it could be all of the above.
Of course.
Which is so disturbing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's vague. Like you're just wondering what's happening. There's like a shift. You're living the same life as before, the same diet, the same activity level, and things are starting to show up in blood work or in your symptoms, whether you're a man or a woman. But there's a secret to this. So as your reproductive organs decline and their hormone output becomes less, you have a backup system, and your brain knows, your pituitary gland in your brain is trying to keep the balance of the hormonal system, and the expectation is for you to make more hormones in other places. So the main backup plan is, as your ovaries retire, your adrenal glands, your stress glands are supposed to pick it up.
Do they, though?
That's like asking who's not stressed out. So that's the real answer. So if you are well rested, well fed, eat enough protein, etc., and you have strong adrenal reserve, which is sort of like describing how much gas is in your car, then it doesn't matter, because as long as somebody's making the hormones, there will be no symptoms. So as a naturopath, I find that it's about maximizing adrenal health. And that way you are making the hormones somewhere, anywhere, and feeling well because you don't have the symptoms.
So let's talk about the adrenal health. I know you just said well rested, well fed, enough protein. Is that it? Or is there something else we need to do?
Well, those are my top three. So over the years, the number one thing that will de-stress you and increase the resilience and the function performance of your adrenal glands, number one is rest. Starting with a good night's sleep, but rest in every other way as well, such as self-care days and taking vacations and taking a break and actually eating your lunch, just simple things. So rest of every kind. Number two on the list would be protein, and our ability to handle carbs without repercussions reduces. So we need slightly less carbs and slightly more protein as we age. And number three is mindset. Change your thinking.
Yes.
Because you're probably stressed out because you're doing too much in the first place, and you can only get away with it for so long. And magically, at age 38, you can no longer get away with it.
Yeah. Isn't that something? But you know what I found was interesting was you said that once we reach our mid-30s and the reproductive time, we're not at our, we're not at the most maximum, or like we're not as fertile, I guess, at that
Yeah.
time, right? We've kind of, I don't want to say we're over the hill. Well, the interesting thing is for me, that was when I started having children.
Yeah, many of us.
Yes.
Many of us.
So,
Yeah, so there's a lot more infertility than there was 10, 20 years ago, and people are starting later. And a lot of the times these patients, when I meet them and they want help with fertility, they're completely falling through the cracks. So traditional blood work doesn't find the problem. And even sometimes in the private labs, you still fall through the cracks because the range that's described as normal in the hormones is very wide. So they might say, how much testosterone should you have? Well, from 5 to 50. And if you have 7, is that okay? No, most people want to be halfway between those two numbers. So there's a lot of gray area in diagnosing. So symptoms matter more.
okay, so let's go back to some of those symptoms. You did give us quite a list, and we were saying that it could be any or all of them. So how can we tackle each one? Could we look at some of them individually? And is it right back to, I know you said about the rest and all that, but let's say, you've got the bloating or the indigestion, or like, what do we do? What do we do?
Well, the first thing is to just pay attention and
Okay.
look for patterns and triggers. So even when a patient comes in and they're falling through the cracks because blood work is normal, but the patient's not feeling well, a big part of being in medicine is pattern recognition. So a person might give me a collection of symptoms. Like, oh yeah, that sounds like low progesterone. And progesterone's a tricky one because low progesterone symptoms are very similar to the symptoms of low thyroid.
Oh,
Yeah. So sometimes I have to differentiate, is it thyroid or progesterone or both? But
that's got to be tricky.
yeah. So progesterone, usually there's a sleep disturbance, and if I ask them to measure their basal body temperature, it'll be cold. They might have inflammation, aches and pains. It varies a lot from person to person. PMS, of course. And then when progesterone's low, that kind of leaves estrogen hanging. So there's a terminology called estrogen dominance. So it could be you have too much estrogen, or you don't have enough progesterone, or both. But the gap between them got wider. And sometimes we need to actually detoxify estrogen or increase progesterone, or both.
Okay, so how do you do that from a natural point?
Of the first, I always start with lifestyle, sleep and protein. And then it's very common for me to find that patients are deficient in magnesium. So if you've been under chronic stress, it'll burn up all your magnesium, and then you'll have additional magnesium symptoms, such as muscle cramps or inability to fall asleep or stay asleep, or chocolate cravings at PMS. It's not cute. It's a symptom. It's a reason women love chocolate.
There you go.
And B6 deficiency or lack of essential fatty acids. So sadly, our food is much less nutritious than it was 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's why people need supplements, not because naturopaths like to recommend them, but because it's not in the food. So, and then other people who have digestive symptoms, you can have digestive symptoms for hormonal reasons. So if you find your symptoms are up and down with your menstrual cycle, then the primary root cause would be hormonal. But if it's more all the days of the month, then sometimes you might look at your diet and say, I am eating enough protein. And I'll say, but you're not digesting it.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's different gaps in the story that's what I do all day. Find those missing links and tell you. Especially, I find so many people that are doing everything right, and they say it's not working. When I ate like this and went to the gym this much 5 years ago, I weighed this much, I could fit into this bikini, and now I don't. And I'll say, okay, it could be because you're not digesting. It could be because your progesterone dropped. Could be because you have what I call a lazy thyroid. And it could be all of the above.
Exactly. Well, now I know what my excuse is. That's for sure.
I'm 38. That's my problem.
That's my problem. I'm 38. Okay, let's switch gears and let's talk about men.
Of course. So they're prone to the same thing. And same thing. How many of them are not stressed out? So when you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you're probably still working. You have aging parents. You have a house full of kids. You're driving them everywhere. So people are burned out, and it finally hits you. I tell people, I go, it's like you can only drive fast for so many years before you run out of gas.
Exactly.
And a lot of the time it's around age 40. And the big thing with men, like they don't have a menstrual cycle, so it's less obvious to them, but it could be the cholesterol shows up.
Okay.
It could be the extra body fat. It could be a drop in libido or performance in the bedroom. It could be their hairlines receding. It could be their vision. It could be a lot of different things. So the symptoms vary slightly between men and women, but the root causes are very similar.
Wow, that is really interesting. So what would they do? The same sort of things?
Same thing. It's how's your liver, our ability to detoxify. Our liver is responsible for the quality of hormones, the clearance of poor quality hormones, and our adrenals become increasingly the body part that makes hormones as we pass age 40. So it all sounds fancy and messy and complicated, and everything affects everything else. And at the end of the day, did you sleep? Did you eat enough protein? Did you drink enough water? So I start there, and I maximize that before we talk about any supplements or herbs, etc. And I try to minimize the need for supplementing.
But is there a difference between supplements for men and supplements for women?
For most of them, no. Like, we both need essential fatty acids. We both burn up our magnesium and B vitamins if we're under chronic stress. We both need sleep. The only one big difference, not the only difference, one huge difference is because men naturally have more testosterone than us at any age. That's a big metabolism benefit. So you'd probably see more women complaining about extra body fat, but their extra testosterone saves them for a while.
Oh, it does. Okay, so that's it. All right. But I was thinking, what about doses? Like, would they not require more because they're male, or because they traditionally are bigger?
Right. It's more about body size. And it doesn't matter what you eat or what you supplement or which meds you take if you're not good at digesting and absorbing. So most of the time with a naturopath, when you hear everything about the person, we usually find a reason to start with the gut.
Okay. Always comes back to the gut, doesn't it?
It does. And
yeah.
Hippocrates, the father of medicine in, 600 BC, his big famous quote is, "All disease begins in the gut." And finally, medical doctors are starting to really, really get on the same page as naturopaths and realize that.
Okay, that it may very well be true. Okay, well, is there anything else you wanted to cover as far as this topic goes?
Well, 80% of my answer is all about what do your adrenals need. 20% of the answer is liver, and the liver is very affected by the toxicity of modern lifestyle. And if your liver is the first place to start, then you might have symptoms that have to do with constipation, hemorrhoids, varicose veins, headaches, fatty liver. That's a big popular thing these days. Non-alcoholic fatty liver, gallstones. So it sounds like a digestive problem, but it's very connected to hormone production, hormone clearance, hormone quality.
Okay. And if you have any other questions or would like to meet with Dr. Gustin, please email us. And please leave comments. Let us know what other topics you would like us to cover.
And follow us on social media, Wow Talk on Instagram and on Facebook.
That's right. Thank you very much for listening.
And happy birthday to everybody who's 38.
And
bye.
Speaking of birthdays, we are 5 years old.
Yes, we are.
So yes. Anyway, bye for now.
Bye.